I stood in my own living room and watched my husband touch another woman like I had never been touched in years. Lucas's fingers moved slowly over her hand, gentle and careful, like she was something fragile. He leaned close to her, smiling in a way I had not seen in a long time, and said in a soft voice, "You're so sweet, not like my boring wife." The words hit me harder than the sight. The woman laughed quietly. She did not pull her hand away. She did not look nervous. She looked comfortable. Before we continue, please tell us where you are watching from, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more interesting revenge stories. I was standing just inside the doorway, my travel bag still hanging from my shoulder. My shoes were wet from the rain outside. My heart was loud in my ears, but my body felt strangely calm, like it had gone cold. Lucas had his back to me. He did not know I was home. I had returned 3 days early from my business trip. I had planned to surprise him. Instead, I surprised myself by how still I was. Then the woman turned her head and looked straight at me. She did not scream. She did not jump. She did not even widen her eyes. She just looked at me calmly, like she had been expecting this moment. That was when I knew this was not normal. I slowly set my bag down by the door. The sound made Lucas turn around. His smile fell apart the second he saw me. "Hannah?" he said. You're early." "Yes," I said. My voice sounded steady even to me. 3 days early." The room felt tight. The air felt heavy. No one moved. The woman finally stood up. She smoothed her dress and faced me fully. She was well-dressed, neat, and quiet. She looked like someone who always stayed in control. "I'm Grace," she said politely. Lucas stared at her in shock. "Why are you introducing yourself?" Grace ignored him. I looked from her to my husband. "I see," I said. Lucas opened his mouth, then closed it again. His face went pale. "Hannah, this isn't what it looks like." I almost laughed. Almost. Instead, I asked a simple question. "How long?" He hesitated. Grace watched him closely. "It just happened," Lucas said. "You're always gone. You're never here. You don't pay attention to me." I nodded slowly. "So you brought her into my house?" "It was just today," he said quickly. "Just this once." Grace's lips pressed into a thin line, but she said nothing. I walked further into the room. Every step felt strange, like I was walking through water. This was my home. I knew every corner of it, yet it felt like I was visiting someone else's life. I looked at Grace again. "You seem very calm," I said. "I am," she replied. Lucas snapped. "Grace, please, just—" "Lucas," she said gently. "Be quiet." The way she said his name made my stomach turn, not because it was loving, but because it was firm, controlled. I took a slow breath. Right then, I made a choice. I did not shout. I did not cry. I did not beg. I said, "Sit down. Both of you." Lucas blinked. "What?" "Sit," I repeated. Something in my voice must have changed, because they both sat. As they did, my mind moved backward to the start of that day. That morning, I had been standing in a hotel room, staring at my phone. My meeting had ended early. My boss smiled and said, "Good work, Hannah. Go home. Rest." I checked my flight options. There was one leaving in 2 hours. I thought about Lucas, about how distant he had sounded on our last call, about how he joked when I said I missed him. "Don't rush back," he had said. "Nothing exciting happens here anyway." I packed my bag without thinking too much. I imagined his face when he saw me early. I imagined a hug, maybe even a smile. The taxi dropped me off in front of our house just after sunset. That was when I noticed the car. It was parked a little too close to our driveway. Not a neighbor's car. Not familiar. My chest tightened, but I told myself not to be silly. I unlocked the door quietly. The house lights were on. I heard laughter. Then everything happened exactly as I had seen it. Back in the present, I stood in front of them. Lucas rubbed his hands together nervously. "Hannah, let me explain." Grace folded her hands in her lap. She watched me like she was studying me. "Go on," I said. "I've been under a lot of stress," Lucas said. "You're always working. You're tired when you're home. You don't dress up anymore. You don't—" "Stop," I said. He stopped. I looked at Grace again. "Do you know my name?" "Yes," she said. "Hannah." "Do you know how long we've been married?" "Yes." Lucas turned to her sharply. "Why do you know that?" Grace did not answer him. I felt something shift inside me, a quiet click like a door locking. "Lucas," I said, "you called me boring." He swallowed. "I didn't mean—" "Yes, you did," I said. "And that's fine." He frowned. "It is?" "Yes," I said calmly, "because boring people notice things." Grace's eyes flickered just for a moment. I walked to the kitchen and poured myself a glass of water. My hands did not shake. That surprised me. When I turned back, Lucas was standing again. "Hannah, please, don't do something you'll regret." I looked at him. This man I had shared years with. This man who thought he knew me. "I already decided what I'm going to do," I said. Grace stood up too. "Then I should leave." "No," I said. "You should stay." Lucas stared at me. "What are you doing?" "I'm listening," I said. "For once." Grace nodded slightly, like she understood. I sat down across from them. "Lucas, you think I'm boring because I don't shout, because I don't chase, because I don't fight." I leaned forward. "But you never asked yourself why." He looked confused. I turned to Grace. "You didn't come here by accident." "No," she said softly. Lucas jumped to his feet. "What does that mean?" "It means," I said, "this moment is bigger than you think." Silence filled the room. I stood up again. "I'm not throwing you out tonight," I said to Lucas. "Not yet." He let out a breath. "Thank you." "That wasn't kindness," I said. "That was patience." Grace picked up her bag. "I'll be ready when you are," she said to me. Lucas's head snapped between us. "Ready for what?" I picked up my travel bag and held it again, feeling its weight. "For the truth," I said. I walked past him and opened the door. The rain had stopped. The night air felt cool and clean. I turned back once. "Lucas," I said, "you should be afraid. Not because I'm angry, but because I'm calm." Then I stepped outside, leaving them both sitting there, finally unsure of who I really was. People always said Lucas and I were a good match. They said it with smiles at dinners, at work events, at family gatherings. Lucas would stand with his arm around my shoulder, confident and relaxed, while I stood quietly beside him. He spoke easily. I listened. To others, it looked perfect. But a marriage can look strong on the outside and still crack slowly on the inside. I met Lucas 8 years ago at a small office party. I had just joined a new company. I did not know many people yet. Lucas noticed me standing alone near the window and came over with a drink. "You look like you're planning your escape," he joked. I smiled. "I was just thinking." "I like thinkers," he said. At first he really did. Lucas liked that I listened carefully. He liked that I remembered details. He liked that I did not argue loudly or demand attention. He told me I was calm, steady, easy to be with. "You make life simple," he said once. "No drama." Back then, that sounded like praise. We dated for a year. He moved fast, but not in a way that felt dangerous. He brought flowers. He called often. He told me he felt lucky to have found someone like me. "You're different from other women," he said. "You don't nag. You don't complain." I did not realize then that this was not a compliment. It was a warning. When we got married, everyone said we made sense. I worked in logistics and traveled often. Lucas worked locally. He said he did not mind my trips. "I like having time to myself," he said. "And when you're home, it feels special." I believed him. In the first year, we were kind to each other. Not passionate, but peaceful. We talked about work, plans, and money. We laughed sometimes. I cooked. He praised my food. Then the jokes began. If I forgot to dress up for dinner, he laughed. If you're going to wear that, we might as well stay home, he said once, smiling. If I spoke too long about work, he sighed. You and your spreadsheets, he joked to friends. People laughed. I smiled along. Slowly, the praise turned into small cuts. You're predictable, he said. You don't surprise me anymore. You're not fun like you used to be. I told myself this was normal. Long marriages changed. People got tired. Love became quiet. I worked more. Traveling was easier than noticing the distance at home. Lucas encouraged it. You should take that trip, he said often. You're good at what you do. I did not see the way his eyes lit up when I packed my bags. I did not question why he never asked me to stay. The first real warning came 3 years ago. I came home from a trip earlier than planned. Not as early as this time, just one day. Lucas was surprised. Too surprised. He stood in the kitchen holding his phone like he had been caught stealing. Why didn't you tell me? He asked. I wanted to surprise you, I said. He forced a smile. Next time, just call. That night, he barely spoke to me. After that, he started guarding his phone more, turning the screen away, taking calls outside, saying things like, it's just work, even when I had not asked. When I asked him once if something was wrong, he laughed. You worry too much, he said. That's your problem. I believed him again. My mother passed away 2 years into our marriage. She had been quiet and gentle, like me. She never interfered in my life. Before she died, she held my hand and said, Be patient, Hannah. Watch more than you speak. I thought she meant life in general. After the funeral, her sister, Aunt Margaret, came to stay with us for a week. She was not like my mother. She was sharp, direct, and observant. One evening, Lucas went out with friends. Aunt Margaret watched him leave, then turned to me. Does he always speak to you like that? She asked. Like what? I said. Like you're smaller than him. I laughed it off. That's just how he jokes. Aunt Margaret did not laugh. Men who joke like that often mean it, she said. Before she left, she told me something that stayed with me. Never think quiet means weak, she said, and never let someone mistake your patience for blindness. I did not understand why she said it then. As the years passed, Lucas became more careless. He forgot birthdays. He forgot promises. He forgot to pretend. If dinner was late, he complained. If the house was quiet, he said it felt empty. If I asked what he wanted, he said, You should know by now. When I asked if he still loved me, he laughed. Of course, he said. Why are you being dramatic? I stopped asking. There were nights I lay awake beside him, listening to his breathing, wondering when we had become strangers. I told myself this was what grown marriages looked like. Calm, boring. The word boring came more often. You're boring, he said when I said no to a late party. You're boring, he joked when I chose tea instead of wine. You're boring, he said once, not joking at all. I swallowed it every time. I told myself love meant endurance. I told myself quiet was strength. Then my work trips became longer, not because I wanted them to be, but because I did not rush home anymore. Lucas never complained. Looking back, that should have scared me. 2 weeks before I came home early, I noticed something else. I was on a video call with Lucas from my hotel room. He was distracted, smiling at something off-screen. Are you with someone? I asked. He laughed. You're imagining things again. The call ended quickly. That night I dreamed of standing in my own house, watching strangers move my things. I woke up unsettled but said nothing. When my meeting ended early and my boss told me to go home, I did not feel excited. I felt nervous. Still, I booked the flight. Still, I came home. And now, after seeing Lucas touch another woman and call me boring, Everything made sense. Not in a loud, painful way, but in a quiet, clear one. I understood something important. Lucas did not change. He revealed himself. And I finally stopped pretending not to see it. What I did not know yet was that my marriage was never as simple as I believed, and that the woman named Grace was not the beginning of the truth. She was only the door. I met Grace properly the next afternoon, not in anger, not in shouting, but in daylight, when lies have fewer places to hide. I did not sleep much that night. After I left the house, I stayed at a small hotel nearby. I lay awake thinking about Lucas's face when I walked out, and Grace's calm voice when she said she would be ready. Ready for what? I did not fully know yet. In the morning, my phone buzzed with messages from Lucas. Long ones, short ones, angry ones, apologetic ones. I did not reply. Instead, I called Aunt Margaret. She answered on the second ring. "You're home early," she said, like she already knew. "Yes," I replied, "and something happened." There was a pause. "Are you safe?" "Yes." "Then come and see me," she said. "Bring the woman if you can." I frowned. "The woman?" "Yes," Aunt Margaret said calmly. "Grace." My hand tightened around the phone. "You know her?" "I know of her," she replied. "Come." That was when I understood this situation was deeper than betrayal. I texted Grace. She replied immediately, as if she had been waiting. "I can meet you any time." We agreed to meet at a quiet cafe near Aunt Margaret's house. Grace arrived early. She sat straight, hands folded, eyes calm. When she saw me, she stood. "Thank you for coming," she said. "I didn't come for you," I replied. "I came for answers." She nodded. "That's fair." We ordered coffee. Silence sat between us, but it was not heavy. It was careful. I studied her face. She looked about my age. No heavy makeup, no nervous movements, nothing careless. "You don't look like someone who sneaks into married homes," I said. "I didn't sneak," she replied gently. "I was invited." "That doesn't make it better." "No," she agreed. "It doesn't." I took a breath. "Why Lucas?" She did not answer right away. Instead, she asked, "Do you believe everything in your marriage happened by chance?" I frowned. "What kind of question is that?" "The kind that matters," she said. I leaned back. "You know details about my life. My name, my marriage, my home. Why?" "Because I was asked to observe," Grace said. "By who?" She looked at me carefully. "By people who care about you." My heart skipped. That makes no sense. "I know," she said. "It didn't to me at first either." I stood up. "If this is some sick game, it's not," she said quickly, "and I never touched him out of love." I sat back down slowly. "Then why touch him at all?" I asked. She met my eyes. "Because he wanted it, and because it showed who he really was." I stared at her. "So I was a test?" "No," she said. "You were the reason." That was all she would say in the cafe. We walked the rest of the way to Aunt Margaret's house in silence. Aunt Margaret opened the door and looked between us. "Come in," she said. "Both of you." Inside, the house smelled of tea and old books. It felt safe, steady. Grace stood quietly while Aunt Margaret poured tea. Then my aunt sat down across from me. "You saw Lucas for who he is," she said. "That part hurts, but it was necessary." "Necessary for what?" I asked. "For clarity," she replied. I turned to Grace. "Start talking." Grace nodded. "Years ago, your mother came to me," she said. "She was worried, not about you, but about the kind of man you might trust." My chest tightened. "She believed you were strong," Grace continued, "but she also knew you were patient. Too patient." Aunt Margaret spoke then. "Your mother feared you would stay too long in something that hurt you quietly." I swallowed. So what does that have to do with my husband sleeping with another woman? Grace's voice stayed calm. Your mother wanted to know who Lucas would become when he thought no one was watching. I shook my head. That's impossible. Is it? Aunt Margaret asked. She reached into a drawer and pulled out a thin folder. Your marriage contract, she said, and a separate agreement. I stared at the papers. I never signed anything else. You didn't need to, she said. Your mother did. Grace explained then, slowly, carefully. She had been introduced into Lucas's life through work connections. She never chased him, she never pushed. She simply listened, smiled, and waited. Lucas made the first move. Lucas made every choice. Did you love him? I asked quietly. No, Grace said. I watched him. I felt sick, angry, relieved, all at once. So my marriage was an experiment? I asked. No, Aunt Margaret said firmly. It was protection. I closed my eyes. Grace continued. If Lucas had stayed faithful, respectful, kind, my role would have ended quietly. But he didn't, I said. No, Grace replied. He revealed himself. I stood up and paced the room. You let this go on, I said. You let me be humiliated. Aunt Margaret's voice softened. We let him show his truth without forcing your eyes open. That part matters. I stopped walking. Grace looked at me. I never intended to hurt you, but I understand if you hate me. I studied her face again. I saw no pride there, no victory. I don't hate you, I said slowly. I hate the lie I lived in. Grace nodded. Outside, a car passed slowly. Life went on like nothing had changed. But everything had. Lucas thought he had found freedom. He thought he had control. He thought I was boring, blind, and predictable. What he did not know, what he never bothered to learn, was that quiet people notice everything. And now that I finally understood the truth behind Grace, my marriage, and the patience I had been taught, I knew one thing clearly. I was done being the woman who waited. And Lucas had no idea what that meant yet. The truth did not arrive all at once. It came in pieces, placed carefully on the table, like fragile things that could break if handled too fast. After Grace finished explaining her role, Aunt Margaret asked me to sit. I stayed standing. I need to hear everything, I said. No protecting me, no soft words. Aunt Margaret nodded. Then listen closely. She poured tea into 3 cups. The sound was steady, calm. Too calm for what she was about to say. Your mother was not afraid of Lucas when you first met him, she began. She was cautious. I frowned. Why? Because men like Lucas are easy to like at first, she said. They shine early, they impress quickly, but they grow impatient when admiration turns into routine. Grace added quietly, your mother noticed how he spoke about other people. Especially women, I thought back. Lucas often mocked his co-workers' wives, called them demanding, dramatic, expensive. I had laughed then. Aunt Margaret continued, your mother believed love should make a person kinder over time, not crueler. She watched Lucas closely. And she decided to test him? I asked, anger rising again. She decided to protect you, Aunt Margaret corrected. She explained that before my wedding, my mother met with Mr. Thompson, the family lawyer. She was worried that if the marriage turned unhealthy, I would endure it quietly, thinking that patience was strength. She knew you, Aunt Margaret said softly. You stay. You try. You forgive. My chest tightened. She was right. So your mother made arrangements, Aunt Margaret continued. Not to trap Lucas, not to tempt him, but to observe him if temptation came. Grace spoke again. I was never sent to break your marriage. I was placed where he could choose. I clenched my fists. He chose quickly. Yes, Grace said, and proudly. That hurt more than I expected. Aunt Margaret slid another document across the table. This agreement stated that if Lucas ever betrayed you emotionally or physically, certain protections would activate. Protections like what? I asked. She looked me in the eye. Financial independence, legal distance, and most importantly, clarity. I laughed bitterly. Clarity came at a high price. Yes, Aunt Margaret said, but confusion would have cost you more. Grace stood and walked to the window. Lucas spoke freely around me, she said. He believed I admired him. What did he say? I asked. She hesitated. Are you sure? Yes. He said you were safe, Grace said. Predictable, that you would never leave. My stomach turned. He said marriage worked best when one person stayed quiet, she continued, and that you would never challenge him because you were grateful he chose you. I felt heat rush to my face, not shame, but anger. That's when I knew, Grace said, turning back to me, that your mother was right to worry. Aunt Margaret added, the agreement was never about punishment, it was about proof. I sat down slowly. So what happens now? I asked. That depends on you, Aunt Margaret said. The doorbell rang. All three of us looked at each other. I invited Mr. Thompson, Aunt Margaret said calmly. When he arrived, he greeted me kindly, like a man who had known me all my life. He did not look surprised to see Grace. We sat together at the table. Lucas has no idea what he agreed to when he married you, Mr. Thompson said. He believed the paperwork was standard. And legally? I asked. Legally, he said, you are protected, more than you realize. He explained carefully, assets, accounts, clauses that activated only if betrayal was proven. Everything had been prepared quietly years ago. I felt dizzy. All this time, I whispered, I thought I was just enduring. You were being guarded, Aunt Margaret said. I closed my eyes. For years, I thought my silence made me weak, that my patience meant I accepted being diminished, but now I saw it differently. My mother had trusted that when the truth came, I would know what to do. The meeting ended quietly. Grace prepared to leave. Will you hate me tomorrow? She asked gently. I don't know, I said honestly, but I don't blame you. She nodded. That's enough. When she left, Aunt Margaret placed a hand on mine. Lucas will try to regain control, she warned. Men like him do not accept losing quietly. As if summoned by her words, my phone buzzed. Lucas, I answered. Where are you? He demanded. You can't just disappear like this. I can, I said calmly. You embarrassed me, he snapped. Grace won't answer my calls. What did you do? I listened, I said. There was a pause. Come home, he said. We'll talk. No, I replied. You're overreacting, he said. This isn't you. I almost smiled. You never knew who I was, I said. He laughed sharply. You think you're suddenly strong? No, I said. I think I was always strong. I just stopped pretending otherwise. He hung up. I sat there for a long time after that, not crying, not shaking, just thinking. I thought about all the moments I swallowed words to keep peace, all the times I blamed myself for his distance, all the times I believed patience meant staying quiet. I stood up. I know what I'm going to do, I said. Aunt Margaret smiled, not proudly, but knowingly. That's all your mother ever wanted, she said. Outside, the sun was setting. The sky was clear. For the first time in years, my chest felt light. Lucas still believed the story was about his mistake. He had no idea it was about my awakening. And I was finally ready to act, not out of anger, but out of truth. I returned to the house 2 days later, not because Lucas asked me to, not because I missed him, but because I was done running from a life that was already over. The house looked the same from the outside. Clean walls, neat lawn, quiet street. It still carried the picture of a good marriage, the kind neighbors pointed at and said, "They're doing well." I parked my car and sat for a moment, breathing slowly. This time there was no strange car outside, no laughter behind the door, only silence. When I walked in, Lucas was sitting on the couch. He stood up the second he saw me. "There you are," he said, trying to sound calm. "We need to talk." "I know," I replied. "That's why I'm here." He studied my face like he was looking for the old version of me, the woman who softened first, the woman who explained herself. He did not find her. "You scared me," he said. "You just left." "I didn't disappear," I said. I stepped back. He shook his head. "You're acting strange. You're cold." "No," I said. "I'm clear." That word made him uncomfortable. He walked toward me. "Look, what happened with Grace?" "Stop," I said. He froze. "You don't get to explain anymore," I said calmly. "You already did that when you touched her in my house and called me boring." His jaw tightened. "You heard one sentence." "I heard enough." He sighed and rubbed his face. "I made a mistake, that's all. Couples survive worse." I nodded. "They do, when both people respect each other." "I respected you," he snapped. I looked at him, really looked at him. "You respected my silence," I said. "Not me," he scoffed. "You're twisting things." "No," I replied, "I'm untangling them." I walked past him and sat at the dining table. He followed, restless. "Grace won't answer my calls," he said. "She just vanished." "That's because she was never yours," I said. He frowned. "What does that mean?" "It means you misread everything," I replied. "As usual." His voice rose. "You're being dramatic again." I smiled slightly. "That word doesn't work on me anymore." He slammed his hand on the table. "You think you're better than me now?" "No," I said quietly. "I think I'm free of you." That stopped him. "You don't mean that," he said. "You need me." I reached into my bag and placed a folder on the table. "I don't," I said. He stared at it. "What's that?" "Truth," I replied. He opened it and flipped through the pages. His face changed as he read. Confusion, then fear. "What is this?" he asked. "Read carefully," I said. "You always skipped the fine print." He read faster now. His breathing changed. "This isn't right," he said. "This can't be real." "It is," I said. "And it's legal." He looked up. "You planned this?" "No," I said. "My mother did." His eyes widened. "Your mother?" "She loved me," I said. "Enough to protect me from someone like you." He laughed nervously. "This is crazy. Some agreement? Some test?" "It wasn't a test," I said. "It was a mirror." His voice turned sharp. "So Grace was spying on me?" "She was watching," I corrected. "You did the rest." He pushed the papers away. "This is manipulation." "No," I said. "This is consequence." He stood and paced. "So what? You're going to ruin me now?" I shook my head. "I'm not ruining anything. I'm leaving." His head snapped up. "You can't just walk away." "I can," I said. "And I am." He laughed again, louder this time. "With what money? With what plan?" I slid another document across the table. He read it slowly. The color drained from his face. "That account," he whispered, "is mine," I said. "It always was." He looked at me like I had never truly existed before. "You let me believe. I let you assume," I said. "You never asked." He sank into the chair. For the first time since I met him, Lucas looked small. "You're not even angry," he said. "I was," I replied. "For a long time, but anger is loud. I'm done being loud inside." He stared at the floor. "So that's it?" "Yes," I said. "That's it." I stood up and looked around the house one last time. "I'll take my things tomorrow," I said. "The rest is yours." He looked up suddenly. "After everything, you're just leaving?" I met his eyes. "I left the moment you decided I was boring," I said. It just took my body longer to catch up." He said nothing. I walked to the door. "Hannah," he said softly, "I didn't think you would actually go." I paused, but I didn't turn around. "That was your biggest mistake," I said. Outside, the air felt fresh. I did not cry. 3 months later, my life looked nothing like it used to, and everything like it should have. I moved into a small apartment filled with light. I bought furniture slowly. Only things I loved. No rush. No one to impress. I traveled for work, but now I returned to a place that felt like mine. Lucas tried to contact me once more through his lawyer. The message was short, angry, desperate. I did not reply. Grace sent me one message. "I hope you're well." I replied with one word: free. Aunt Margaret came to visit one evening. We sat together, drinking tea. "Your mother would be proud," she said. "I think she always was," I replied. I learned something important through all of this. Being quiet does not mean being blind. Being patient does not mean being weak. And being calm does not mean you are powerless. Lucas thought I was boring because I did not entertain his ego. But boring people see everything. And when we finally choose ourselves, we do not need revenge, we just walk away. And that is the loudest ending of all. The last thing I took from the house was not furniture, clothes, or papers. It was my silence. For years, silence had followed me like a shadow. It sat beside me at dinner, slept next to me at night, and walked behind me when I left the house. I thought it was patience. I thought it was love. I thought it was strength. I was wrong. Silence was only a place I stayed too long. When I finally stepped into my new life, I did it slowly. I did not rush to prove anything to anyone. I woke up early, made my own breakfast, and listened to the quiet, not the heavy kind that hurts, but the gentle kind that heals. I learned that peace has a sound. It sounds like breathing without fear. It sounds like laughter that doesn't need permission. It sounds like choosing yourself without guilt. Lucas faded from my life the way noise fades when you close a door. Not suddenly, not dramatically, but completely. His words no longer followed me. His opinions no longer lived in my head. He became a memory that no longer had power. People asked me if I hated him. I didn't. Hate requires energy, and I had spent enough of mine trying to be understood by someone who never wanted to listen. What I felt instead was clarity. Clarity taught me that love should not make you smaller. Clarity showed me that being calm does not mean accepting pain. Clarity reminded me that waiting is not the same as living. One evening, as the sun poured through my window, I realized something simple but powerful. I was no longer explaining myself, not to a husband, not to family, not even to my past. I existed fully, quietly, and honestly. My mother's voice came back to me then, not in sadness, but in warmth. Watch more than you speak. I finally understood what she meant. Watching had saved me. Seeing had freed me. And speaking, when it finally mattered, had changed everything. Grace never became a friend, but she became a lesson. Not all truth comes wrapped in kindness. Sometimes it comes wearing discomfort, asking you to open your eyes. Aunt Margaret was right. Quiet does not mean weak. It means observant. It means patient. It means powerful when the time is right. I did not leave my marriage with shouting or revenge. I left with dignity. I left with knowledge. I left knowing that the woman Lucas called boring was the woman who survived, learned, and walked away whole. And that is the ending people rarely talk about. Not fireworks, not chaos, not destruction. Just a woman closing one door, opening another, and finally stepping into a life where she no longer had to be silent to be loved. That was my ending. And for the first time, it was truly mine. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe for more interesting revenge stories.